All right. Good morning, everyone on the West Coast, and good afternoon to everyone who is not on the West Coast, Central and East. Looks like we still have some attendees, some folks still showing up, so that is good. But we'll just kind of do some housekeeping here while everyone logs in. All right. So it looks like most folks have joined us before, so you guys know what to do as far as you know how to ask a question and all that fun stuff. And I will go into my my previous email queue here. So for anyone who sent in questions through questions@straighttalkacademy.com, we'll go ahead and start with those. So feel free to go ahead and let's talk some commercial real estate and see what's going on out there with your guys's businesses. Share with me your challenges you're dealing with. Share with me your wins if you have any wins. This is I want to make it as much interactive as I can. So just let me know what's going on with your business. Enter it in the question pane, even though it's not a question. And we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Okay. So the first question I have comes from Brian. So in valuing retail property, how does one determine income when it's so dependent on the nature of the business? So in this regard, and this is a multiple part question, actually why don't I just go ahead and read it all. Corollary of the above, the expense line is fairly easy to figure out for apartments, but it varies greatly from one retail or office configuration to another. I'm going to minimize my window here. How do you deal with that? Might it not be best and safer to go with an appraiser's point of view? With regard to mixed buildings, mixed-use buildings, apartments and retails, or apartments and offices, is valuation a simple combination of both income streams? So let's go ahead and tackle that. Okay, so the first part of the question, when you're determining income, each business is going to be different if we're looking at from the investment perspective of the property owner, right, or from the buyer perspective, we still have we're still dealing with the same thing. We're still dealing with gross rents received. We're still taking out our operating expenses, and we still have a net income. And that doesn't matter what kind of business it is. All businesses are going to be ran the same. They're all going to have that net operating income line. And again, to figure out the cap rate, we need that net operating income. So the answer would be no, it's not really dependent on the business. We just need that net operating income, and any business should be able to provide that. If they do not have that, then we'll need to dive deeper into their financials. Maybe we need to dig into their ledgers. If they don't have a CPA and they're not doing everything with the CPA's help, then that might be a little harder to figure out, but we'll need to take some time and analyze their financials, look at the rents received, subtract out the capital expenses, subtract out the operating expenses, and we really want to dig into that net income. All right, moving on to that second part, where he asked, the expense line is fairly easy to figure out for apartments, but it can vary from retail or office. Yeah, so I guess I already answered that pretty much. So again, we're looking at the net operating income. And the expenses, yes, the expenses are going to be different. So we need to have an understanding, and hopefully you've been through the different modules for the different property types, and when we talked about some of the common expenses that you'll see, such as CAM charges and maybe owners association dues and things like that you'll find only in office buildings. But again, if you're dealing with a retail or office configuration, you're going to most likely be dealing with clear financial records, and so it will break out which expenses are pertinent to that particular property. And if you don't have that information, if you're representing a buyer and you're looking at listings, you need to get that information. So that one I think is good. Might it be best to get an appraiser's point of view? Sure, if you're getting a loan, then yes, you're going to have an appraiser. But guess what? They're going to be pulling the same information that you have access to. They're going to be requesting from the seller 2 years financial records, the previous year to date, and the previous 2 years income statements. And they're going to be looking at those, and they're going to look through it and make sure that the net operating income that is outlined in the income statement is actually a true and correct net operating income. So they're just going to verify it. But from a valuation, from an appraiser's point of view, sure. I mean, it's always great to get an appraiser's perspective on the value and what the cap rates are for that market. However, that does come with a price tag, and generally commercial appraisers charge a lot more. They are highly in-depth appraisals. I think I've got one on my computer right now, and I want to say it's about 100 pages just for the appraisal. They go into all three of the methods of appraising property. So you got the comparison method, you've got the income approach, and then you've got the replacement cost approach. And generally, they will do all three of those, and then ultimately assign which of the valuation methods will be the best for that particular property, the best and highest use, basically. But it's always great to get an appraiser's opinion. Just remember, it's going to cost you some money to get that. All right, and with regard to mixed-use buildings, apartments and retail or apartments and offices, is evaluation a simple combination of both income streams? Yep, absolutely. And then you may need to kind of do an average, right? So, what's the percentage of apartments to office? What's the percentage of apartments to the retail, or any of that combination, right? And then you'll do that same kind of percentage allocation, I guess you would call it, to the different cap rates, right? So if you've got an apartment market that's at 6% cap rate, and maybe that's 50% of the property to make the math easy, and then you've got the office market as maybe at a 8% cap rate, and you've got offices occupying 50% of the building, so 50% apartments, 50% office. You've got a 6% cap rate on the apartments, 8% cap rate on the office. So you would average those out, and you'd probably come up with a value close to 7% cap rate. So that's how I would handle that, and that's basically how it's pretty much handled in the marketplace. And then when you're also comparing the either the comps or the the market cap rates, or the comparison property cap rates, again, you're going to be still factoring in the visibility, the location, the quality of the build out, those kinds of things. If you've got a Class A mixed use building, it may that cap rate may go down, which in turn would create a higher value than if it was really a Class C property, right? So we still need to look at those particular factors. And let me know, Brian, if that answers your questions or if you have any follow-up. And you do. Okay, so the owner has a bakery. The income is easy, but a bakery is a low-profit business. Using that income is a loser. What then? Okay, so you're talking about the business income of the bakery. So that would only come into play if we're talking about selling the building and the business within. So you're talking about a business transaction as well. But the bakery business itself is not going to be factored into the property value and the cap rate. Okay, got it. Cool, cool. And did everyone see the ebook that I emailed out the other day? I think I emailed it out, was it maybe 2 or 3 days ago? It's just an ebook on the idea of investing in single-tenant, triple-net lease buildings. That's a great resource. If you didn't see that email come through, just look in your, just search my name in your inbox, and maybe it went into the promotions folder if you're using Gmail. But take a look at that. And that ebook was actually prepared, and some of the content you've probably seen in the training, but it was actually used for putting together books for clients in the brokerage. So we've had a good response with creating these booklets to give our clients and prospective clients when we meet them. So, you know, if you were to meet a client or a potential client for a listing agreement, or you're meeting a client, actually this would be more pertinent to a buyer. If we're meeting with a prospective buyer and they're curious about commercial real estate, maybe they're not quite ready to pull the trigger, we have these, we kind of print up these books, and it's just an overview of what a retail or what a net leased investment would look like. So you can use it for your own self, or if you can use it and kind of you know, maybe borrow some of the ideas that are in there to use for your clients. But it's a cool little resource that I would just sent out. And one other thing too, if you guys would like, we can prepare you know, different resources if you have a request. So, you know, if you want to know more about, you know, retail buildings, or you want to know more about apartments that maybe we didn't cover, maybe you have a certain topic that you want covered, you know, let me know, and we can put together either a unique webinar, or I can put together another ebook, or we can do something. But regardless, if you have any ideas like that, share them with us. We'd love to publish some more content that will help you guys, because we want you guys to succeed, so you guys can do some more deals and make more money and make the world go around. All right, so what about using the ebook data for some blog posts and reviews? Ebook data, okay. Yeah, so we'll take some of those concepts out of there and put them in the blog posts. Okay, I like it. So I better grab my notepad here and write it down. Any attribution requirements to using your stuff? I think in the ebook it actually has a disclaimer that says it's, I think it actually has a disclaimer, just like our courses have a disclaimer. You may want to probably just not claim the credit. You can certainly use it, but if you want to use it, you probably need to leave, you know, the disclaimer and I guess the copyright in there, you know, for obvious reasons. But you can use the concepts. I mean, you guys have the concepts, so if you and you have the ebook, you know, if you want to kind of recreate some of the ideas into your own book, that would be good. We use a company, I think it's called Unibind. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about it, but it's, I think we met them at the California Association of Realtors Expo about a year ago, and they give you these cool, it's like a little machine, and they give you these hard covers that have you can have your logos put on in any color, any thickness of books, and then what you can do is you can print out books on your, you know, just through your regular printer, throw them in this machine, and it actually, it's a binding machine, so it binds these reports into a hard book format, or some other formats, but that's a cool way to deliver these books to your clients. We just started using it in the brokerage, and it's actually been a hit. And quite, you know, quite honestly, they're not the prettiest of ebook reports, just because of the time it takes to hire a graphic designer and all that. We just thought it'd be better just to publish it and get it out versus spending a bunch of money and time making it pretty. So just keep that in mind. Don't mind to using your name in brokerage, but want to use it as a baseline. Yeah, absolutely. A white branded book would be great, but do you allow it? I mean, you could get your own. You could get your own books. You could certainly do that. I think you said if you don't mind using the name in brokerage, you could certainly bind it like that. Or if you wanted to change it up and then kind of recreate it, then I would leave that up to you. We're not gonna police it. So, yeah, it's called the Unibinds, and it's maybe it comes out to like $3 or $4 a book, but they've actually been a hit. We've used the books for listing presentations, broker opinions of value. We actually used one as after we sold a property. We created a book as almost like a, I don't know what you'd call like a memoir book or something like that, with the different photos of the property, just to kind of as a sentimental value thing. The client really liked that because they had owned the property for a long time, and it was more of a passion business in property, so they really enjoyed that. So that was cool. People really love books. So if you can create books, they have a higher perceived value, and they probably have a little higher actual value, right, than just like a blog post or something, or an article online. Something physical usually carries a little bit more value if you want to use something like that for marketing. So what are you guys using right now for lead generation? Share with me what you're doing to generate commercial leads. And hopefully you've been through the lead generation and marketing module, right, in the training, and hopefully you've read the 3 rapid fire lead generation Kickstarters, which are low cost or no cost marketing tools. And if you haven't got that, go into the training center, go up to, I want to say it's the tools and resources tab at the top, and download those, because again, they're free low-cost ways to lead generate. But let me know what you guys are doing right now, and share with me what's working, what's not working, what you plan to do. So let's have a discussion on that, because we want you guys to get business. That's the most important thing here, is like getting business and actually able to perform on the business. And hopefully, since you guys have been in the system for a while, based upon my attendee roster here, it looks like you all have been in the system a while. Hopefully you've been through the training, and you are in the process of practicing your lead generation and getting clients. But share with me what you guys are doing right now, and let's discuss. One of the things that we're doing in the brokerage right now is we're targeting franchisees. So we've chosen to specialize in the area of single tenant net leased retail. We really decided to hone on that particular niche. And one of the things that we did was actually go to one of the companies, corporate. It's not really a corporate event. It was like a trade show event, like an annual deal where everyone comes in, kind of like if you're with Century 21 or Keller Williams, they do their annual family reunion, or global conference, something like that. It's very similar, and there's different groups that have those. And so if your target market has one of those groups, which you would want to research to see if they do, you can go to these groups and network with your ideal customers, and then again, you're right there to pitch your value proposition. So what we're doing is we're going after small restaurants, or quick serve restaurants as they're called in the biz, and single tenant net lease buildings. Hopefully you guys know what those are by now. And we're representing franchisees. So that's what we're targeting right now. And then on the other side, we're targeting local multifamily properties. folks who own local multifamily properties. And then the franchisees, by the way, are nationwide, which we've talked about previously. And actually, we did a webinar to these franchisee owners, and I think there was maybe only like 10 franchisees on it, but how powerful to have 10 of your ideal clients on a small webinar where it can be a little bit more interactive, and we were able to answer some of their questions and provide some real value for them. So great way to do it. You could certainly use webinars if you want your business. You could send out a mailer, for example, to, if you want to do apartments, you send out a mailer to all the apartment owners, or maybe you want to send them out to the people who own duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, and you send them to a webinar registration page to register for a webinar of how to turn your duplex, triplex, fourplex portfolio into commercial property, or how to turn it into apartments, or how to turn it into stable cash flow mailbox money properties, whatever, using that net lease property type, or transition into office or whatever. But you can target people, send them to an opt-in so you get their contact information, and then do a webinar where you teach them a subject. It seems to work fairly well. It's a lot better than a sales presentation. It seems to work better than a sales page where it's just you've got words on a screen. So people can, obviously they can hear your voice and listen to you and all that good stuff. So great thing to do. And you can use GoToWebinar. They have a free trial, a 30-day trial. And if you're worried about price for webinar systems, GoToWebinar probably won't share this with you, but I will if you keep recycling your 30-day trials with different email addresses. There you go. That actually that can work if you don't have the money to pay them $80 or $90 a month for their service. So you can just register new email addresses and do that. Daryl says, would like to hear a webinar using your triple net lease book as the topic. And in fact, we did something very similar to that. And what I'll do is I'll share with you that webinar link that we did. Just so happens I have that up. So let me grab you the link and I'll put it in the chat box. And you can kind of see how we did it. Now, this wasn't a webinar that we practiced a bunch of times, so it's not super polished, but it actually did elicit, I think it did elicit a couple responses. I'm not sure if they actually ever turned in anything, but what we did was we created an advertisement on LoopNet, which you can do. You can create an ad on LoopNet, similar to Zillow. When a property comes up and people are looking at properties, they have the option to click or call you for more information about the property, or it's just an ad where you can direct them to any sort of web page. What we did is we ran a campaign for investors, multifamily investors, to register for this particular webinar, and I can't remember, it was about a year ago. It was last November is actually when it was. But it was on the topic of how to invest in net lease properties, and it was an overview, right? And it was pretty good. So the idea was let's target multifamily buyers and then show them something they haven't seen before. Most people get into apartments because they have invested in houses, they've invested in duplex, triplexes, fourplexes, and they just think, okay, the natural next step is instead of buying another fourplex, let's buy 8 units or 16 units or 20 units or something like that. So what we did was, let's show these folks something different, and that's when we showed them the net leased property overview. Yeah, webinars are cool. They take a little practice and some time, and you got to develop the presentation, and you got to figure out what you're going to put in the presentation. So it takes a little bit of time, but it's a great way to it's a great way to educate people, especially as a lead generator. And you guys can choose any niche you want. That's just kind of the niche that we chose because it's fairly simple to understand, right? Because it's not as complicated as running like a multi-tenant office building, right? It's not that complicated once you get the basics understood. It has good price point. The price point is about $1 million and up. Kind of the sweet spot for like restaurants and things like that are between 1 and 2 million. We're talking, maybe not McDonald's at 1 million, but we're talking McDonald's and Wendy's and Starbucks and Denny's and all of these nationally branded companies is what we're talking about here. But we like it because of we can do a lot of volume. They're relatively inexpensive when it comes to commercial buildings, but they're still over $1 million a deal. Oftentimes, 1.3, 1.4 is kind of like the average. So that's kind of some of the reasons why we chose this particular niche. But you could choose this one. This is great for buyers. Absolutely fantastic for buyers. Or you could choose apartments and put a presentation together that says, something to the effect of why apartment buildings are better than buying houses, or however you want to spin it with whatever topic. Okay, which system do you use for your pipeline to keep them organized? So the particular contact, the CRM that we use is called Apto. I'll put it in the link. Now there's a whole lot of them. Apto.com. apto.com. It doesn't look like it got hyperlinked, but if you just type that into your browser, that's the one we use. It's actually a Salesforce application with a commercial real estate spin on it. So Salesforce is like a it's like a generic platform, right? I'm sure you all are familiar with Salesforce or have heard of it. And then there's these different companies that will tweak the program to specific industries and needs. So Apto, what they did is they tweaked the Salesforce platform with a commercial real estate agent broker spin. Now I think there's another one out there that does commercial real estate as well. This one's not too inexpensive. It was about $600 a year, and they require you to buy it a year up front. So it's not the cheapest, but that's what we use to keep everything organized on the brokerage. Now, on the Straight Talk Commercial Real Estate Academy, I use Infusionsoft, which I'm sure you've probably heard of as well. That can also work, but it's not really the ideal platform for brokerage business. Now, if you also purchase the RealNext platform, which I think I've talked about probably too much, but they do have a CRM function within there. I just haven't used it, so I can't really comment on it. But if you're using the RealNext platform for market analysis or putting proposals together, you could certainly check that one out as well. But I think the most important things of what you want to look for in a CRM system is you want the ability to send campaigns, pre-written campaigns, which I think most of them do. I think even something like Constant Contact would work, and then any CRM will keep folks organized, and then from there you've got the different sales aspects, right? So the ability to rate leads on their quote hotness, right? How hot the lead is, and that's Infusionsoft has that but it's really, I don't think it's really an ideal source for real estate, and that one's like, ours is like $380 a month for Infusionsoft, so definitely not the cheapest. Are any of you guys stuck on lead generation strategies? Okay, I have not started lead generation yet. I'm not sure where to start. I am new to the business. Okay. So now I know that you are also in residential. So what are you doing in residential right now to create business? Because oftentimes whatever you're doing in residential, you can use to tweak or make some minor adjustments and use that for commercial. So are you using Facebook? Are you using LinkedIn? Are you calling for business? How are you currently generating residential business right now? You've been working by referrals only. Okay. So what you can do is, if you've been working with referrals and if you have no issue by reaching out to your referrals, people who have referred you and your actual clients, and reaching back out to them, asking them if they have anyone in their sphere of influence that owns a business, owns investment real estate that you could talk to or set up an appointment with. That may be one place to start. And again, I would say when you log into the training, in the resources tab, there'll be a report. It's the top. It's the I think, what is it called? It's like it's called 3 rapid fire lead generation kickstarters. I would definitely take a look at that, because the first thing I think that it talks about is kind of mining your company for commercial business. So what that is you need to let everyone know in your office that you are doing commercial. And hopefully there's more than a couple people in your office, but regardless, they all need to know that you are doing commercial. So you can reach out to them. Maybe you want to send an email out to all the agents in your office and say, hey, by the way, guys, I'm doing commercial real estate, focusing on apartments, or blah, blah, blah. Let me know if you've got any referrals. I'd be happy to pay you X percentage of referral fee. Start sending those out, and that will actually let people know what you're doing. You can always share some information that if you find online about the market. Maybe you're on LoopNet and you look at some stats. Maybe you click on one of those cool graphs that's in LoopNet, and you see that prices are going up or prices are going down, or inventory is going up and inventory is going down. Do a little article or a little blog post. Maybe you want to post it on Facebook or LinkedIn, or send it out to the to your company distribution. Say, hey, just a commercial market update, guys. Here's what's going on. Vacancy rates are going down. Prices are rising. Now's a great time to invest. Something like that. You can do it. I mean, that's as simple as you really need to make it at the start. The next one is doing a joint mailer. That's also a great place to start. And so if you find another vendor who maybe has a little bit more, has more resources, and try to get them to help cover the cost of a joint mailer. So you do the work of putting it all together and writing all the copy and everything, and they just are the monetary support that pays for the postage and the envelopes and that kind of thing. But it's a it's a dual promotion type of mailer. That's one that can work as well. We did one of those to like, was it like 3,000 prospects or leads, 3,000 addresses, and our cost was 0 because our partner paid for it all, and it was a joint mailer, so they got their brand out there as well. And then the third one is, honestly, I can't remember what the third one is, so I would just say go download that book. But try to mine the resources that you have right now, or if you have a budget, spend some time doing some small test marketing campaigns. And that's a whole nother topic in and of itself. But if you don't have a lot of monetary resources right now, get creative. You're going to have to do things a little bit more hands-on and a little bit more proactive, a little bit more prospecting versus attraction-based marketing. You can still do attraction-based marketing, and if you've got a blog, write on that thing once a week at least. Do everything you can, but again, you want to try to optimize your time with the best sources that you have at your disposal. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming and hanging out with me on this most glorious Thursday. If something comes up to you, feel free to post it on the forum or send me an email, and I'll help answer that for you. All right. Have a great day, everyone.